Hello, thanks for joining us and welcome to VSS Tech Talks. I'm Ryan Lamarca, Senior Account Supervisor at LRG Marketing, and I'll be your host today. VSS Tech Talks is a bi-monthly series of panel discussions focused on security-related topics designed to give you the bigger picture. Today's topic is data centers, and we're thrilled to have an expert panel to address this fast-growing sector of the security industry from a range of different perspectives. The session will be recorded. If you have questions for the presenters, please enter them in the questions section of the GoToWebinar control panel. Let's kick it off with the first presenter. Electronics is the leading manufacturer of low voltage power supplies and transmission solutions for the professional security industry. Today's presenter is Stephen Oliva, Senior Manager of OEM and Strategic Partnerships at Electronics. Stephen, you're up.
Thanks, Ryan, and thanks for all who are attending today for another VSS Power and Data Transmission for Data Center Critical Security Applications. My name is Stephen Oliva, Senior Manager here at Electronics for OEM and Strategic Partnerships. Let's dive in right away and talk a little bit about Electronics, the global leader in power and data transmission solutions for more than 40 years. As you know, Electronics is here to support all of your project needs as it's related to power supplies and or IP and IP connectivity. Lean on us as much or as little as you'd like. That's our job. We're here to support your design, and we're here to manufacture the best products in the world. Global headquarters based here in Brooklyn, New York. Feel free and stop by if you'd like, if you're ever in town for a slice of pizza, a tour of the factory, or just to say hello. Let's dive right into Trove Plus, and these are going to be real labor savers for deploying a lot of devices at one time in places like these critical infrastructures. Trove Plus includes all of the wire harnesses labeled and placed in position for up to 24 doors. We do support finger duct or magnet options to facilitate your wire management. And if you do have any private labeling or any special kit requirements, just please reach out to us. We're more than happy to develop the Trove solution based on what your needs are. Now, if you don't need a wall mount and you don't have that space, we do also offer that Trove Plus in our wired rack style solutions. Displayed here in this capture is our Trove 2M2R series. We call this a high capacity because it does support up to 8 doors. Again, this actually is a 2U design. It does include our tamper switch and a Z bracket to facilitate your wiring. That Z bracket does have dual lance bridges, so you can separate that high and low voltage. Now, if you don't need the full 8 doors, or if you're looking to kind of mix and match, we do have our pre-wired available in Trove 1 and 2R. So our Trove 1 is smaller. It's going to support up to about 4 doors. Now, our pre-wires are not limited just to Mercury. We do support Azure, Imran, Software House, Honeywell, and a flavor of other access control platforms. Again, all of our wiring harnesses will be labeled and placed in the correct position. And in the rack style solution, we do include magnets to facilitate the wire management. And don't worry, we can also do custom kits and private labeling options here as well. All of our Troves currently right now are under 15 days lead time, and we can get those out the door and into your hands so you can get those projects moving. Now, our RE2 rack mount battery enclosure will support up to 4 7-amp-hour batteries, really designed for that temporary backup, especially when we're talking about critical infrastructures that typically do have their own generator or other styles of backups that are available. Or if it's just a one-off and you need to have that battery backup, the RE2 complements our rack mounts very well. Now, for that critical infrastructures and our data centers that have redundant AC power coming in, that's 2 forms of either 115 or 230. We do have our CIRC auto transfer switch available in a couple of different flavors, as board only, which you can mount on the sidewall of your Trove 2 or Trove 3, or you can actually use our Trove TC100 enclosure and use our CERT1 ATSC, which includes the enclosure and the board. Now, this seamlessly transfers the primary over to the secondary when the primary is down or is being tested on an audit or a monthly or quarterly basis. This seamless application then transfers back to the primary power when it does come back up. Coming soon will actually be the low voltage version of CERC that will support 12 and 24 volts DC backup as well. Now, when we talk about other ways of bringing power and or connectivity to these places within data centers or critical infrastructures, think about our Netway series of products, and in this case, Netway 3012 or 3024PX. Powered by 802.3 BT from the head end, this will simultaneously give you both .AT or 30 watts PoE and 12 or 24 volts DC simultaneously for a total of 60 watts to share, meaning that you can run easily an MP1501 controller over PoE and still provide that 12 or 24 volts DC to the door for your locks and or any other peripheral devices. We also have PACE. Now, PACE is our long-range Ethernet, and it comes in a variety of fashions. We do make PACE over RJ45, which will support up to 100 megabits per second and 500 meters in distance. Or we do have our new PACE KR solution. Now, our KR solution is what we call two-wire support. Now, two-wire is over 802.3CG. It does limit you to that 10 megabits per second, but you can run single pair up to 1,000 meters away and still support data and power up to .AT or PoE+. In this particular design here, this is actually one that works with 4 different devices and also supports Link for remote power management. So think about 4 cameras or 4 MP1501 controllers going out long distances for access control or for video. Now, when we talk about Link, again, Link is our remote monitoring solution. It is our way of troubleshooting devices remotely without having to be on site, and a variety of different feature sets that are available, all based on the style of device that you choose from. But what you can see here at the bare minimum, restart that device, monitor the batteries, monitor the temperature and size enclosures, and more. Also keep in mind today that we have a brand new milestone interface with Link. That means that if you're running a milestone solution, you can run all your Link devices straight off of their dashboard seamlessly with a two-way integration from Link and milestone. Now, for this, when we talk about our dashboard is what keeps our remote platform running, and our dashboard has been upgraded to support unlimited devices, unlimited sites, and much, much more. What I would suggest is, for a great introduction to Link, feel free to reach out to any of us here at Altronics, or to learn about any of the other products that you've seen today, please reach out either to info@altronics.com or www.altronics.com to find those products on the website. Again, my name is Stephen Oliva, Senior Manager for OEM and Strategic Partners here at Altronics. I thank you for being here, and back to you, Ryan.
Thank you, Stephen. Needham manufactures secured entry solutions and architectural revolving doors, helping people feel welcome and safe. These quality engineered solutions are designed to deter, detect, or prevent unauthorized entry. Today's presenter is Ted Lewis, Regional Sales Manager at Needham. Ted, you're up.
Thanks, Ryan. I very much appreciate the introduction. Hi, everybody. My name is Ted Lewis. I'm with Needham. I'm a Regional Sales Manager for the West Coast, and today we're talking about secured entry solutions for data centers. The key to managing a data center from a physical security perspective, the design is laid out in 6 different zones or layers. The first one is usually perimeter. Second one is clear zone. 3 is your essential entry to the data center itself. 4 is your hallways and escorted areas. 5 is the actual core of the data center. And then 6 is literally at the cabinet level. So as you go through ideas and concepts of physical security, you need to think of all 6 layers and how they work and how they're approached per client, because each one has a variable compliance need or want from the client itself. So risk mitigation is important in the business of data centers. Automate governance enforcement is important. It saves money and saves time and saves people, lets them do their job without needing to involve themselves in every aspect of security. So automation is a key factor, from tailgating, piggyback prevention, and so on. There are 3 basic areas of the data center design. First is deter, product in the deterrence environment, detection-based architecture, and then prevention-based architecture, which is primarily used in the core of the data center itself. This is a quick picture of showing prevention and product used for data center designs. You can see the cost is high, operations low, no guard. Another one is a portal, same idea, a little less throughput, but meant for the data center to validate people coming in and out of the facility. And then there's one for your perimeter environment, less cost, primarily perimeter, like your fence line kind of applications. So the intrusion prevention is typically a design technology to enforce security by use of technology to allow tailgating and piggybacking to be prevented. So it's called a one-person rule in the data center language. Identify and verification is another key piece. Not just the card, but the human entering is identified through usually some level of biotechnology. Man traps are primarily used in the environment of the core and the level 4 or layer 4. The alarm management component of this comes in 2 parts. One is alert, one is alarm. The key here is to have a technology that allows you to mitigate issues in more of alerting, because the minute you go into alarm in a data center business, documentation comes into play and there's a lot more involved, which then incurs more time and money being spent. So if you can reduce that using alarm management and automated technologies beforehand, can help save time and money. So in conclusion, a tenant security entry design provides an uncompromising governance controls. That's key. Each data center does have a level of compliance it must meet. It must put in the technology that actually performs the way it's supposed to be in a data center environment, either it be a deterrence, a detection, or a prevention solution. Each one of them will fill each spot of the layer to provide a full security solution, automated and compliance meeting requirements. I appreciate everybody's time. That was obviously a quick preview of technologies in the data center environment. If you want more information, please feel free to email me or call me at the email and phone number below. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Ryan, back off to you again.
Thanks, Ted. Iris ID is a global provider of high-accuracy iris recognition solutions and has been the leader in this technology since 1997. Their products are deployed on 6 continents in thousands of locations, authenticating millions of people's identities every day. Today, we'll hear from Mohammed Murad, Chief Revenue Officer. Mohammed, you're up.
Thank you, Ryan, for the opportunity to discuss our solutions and technologies for the data center applications. The idea behind our solutions and applications is to be able to provide the trust to the people who are using it, the trust to the companies that are deploying our solutions. So we are basically focused that it's one trusted identity to have privacy, convenience, security, and the biometric identity all wrapped into one solution. So basically, as we moved our footprint to the digital identity and digital applications, the security of the identity, privacy of individuals' information, and convenience, and biometric is playing a very integral role in protecting all those 3 elements of privacy, security, and convenience. And Iris is playing an important role because we are not only that providing the privacy and security and convenience, we also be able to provide a non-contact fast throughput applications using iris recognition in the data center environment. So from a data center perspective, it is very important to have a security as a forethought, as a thought to begin with, not afterthought. So to understanding what is to provide from a security perspective, and have all the advanced roles for the security incorporated into a multi-layer physical infrastructure, and then also addressing the cybersecurity controls to basically be able to tie the credentials to persons biometric at the door, and also additionally when they are getting access to the actual data center information on the cage or on the server side. So these 5 elements from a data center security are very, very essential to look at when we are looking at applying biometric security on those solutions. So what is the science behind iris recognition? The idea behind iris recognition is we are taking a 2-dimensional picture of your eye. We are not looking in the back of your eye. A lot of times people are confusing iris recognition versus retina recognition. So we are looking at a 2-dimensional picture of your eye, analyzing the characteristics where you see the blue color ring around the pupil. That's what we are looking at. We're looking into a grayscale format, so we can see all the details that are embedded into that pattern. So the human eye, we see the color. When we capture it using the infrared camera, we're capturing it into a grayscale. Then we segment that. So the only portion that we are really looking at it, and that's why it's anonymous. You cannot tell from the iris image that you took and template that you created who this individual is. You cannot tell their race. You cannot tell their sex. You cannot tell any information about their age, any information about them personally. So it's a real true privacy element from the iris recognition biometric perspective. So basically, you take a picture, we convert into a template, and that template at that point can be stored on a smart card or any kind of credential, or it can also be used in the one-to-many environment, can be saved on the device, depending on the application and the customer needs where the storage needs to happen. We have a global presence across the world. We are almost in every continent except Antarctica. And we have customers from every walk of life. They use our technology for employee entrances, employee time and attendance, and most importantly, data centers. So the adoption across industries, there is no dependency on industry. The technology is very horizontal. It can fit into many different industries. The one we are talking about today is mostly IT industry and data centers in that space. So from a global company who trusts the Iris ID, we have some major vendors, technology vendors, high-tech vendors who use our stuff, such as Microsoft, Apple, QTS, Iron Mountain, TierPoint. These are all the users of the technology. Then we have a technology partners who have taken our products and integrated our solution into their products so they can extend their access control into the customers that we earlier talked about. So it's a really nice combination of relationship between the partners that we have, technology partners, and the customers that use our products. This is an example of a data center security. Basically, as I mentioned earlier, we provide our solutions to Microsoft, Apple, and Google. They are our enterprise customers. In this video, an employee shows up with their credentials. These are smart card credentials. They can get enrolled at any site. Their credentials, the biometric data will be stored on their credentials. Then they can use those credentials to get access to the actual facility. Very high security. So basically, there is no refutation that I was not there. I am holding my credentials. That is the distributed databases that a lot of enterprises are starting to use. I have my credential, my biometric is on my credential, and when I display that credentials, it cannot be compromised, so no one else can use it. I have to be present to be able to use my credentials to gain access to the data center. So this is the three customers that we talk about in this slide. Then we have a lot of other customers across. This is a customer that provides data center facilities to the telecommunication industry, AT&T, Hawaii Telecom, Oceanic, etc. They use our solutions to be able to have to provide access to their employees into the facilities. So as I mentioned earlier, it has a very horizontal approach. Multiple industries can use it. For data center, it's a really great choice. It's non-contact. You can have glasses on. You can have goggles on. All other PEE if it's required. Some of the data centers in the health industry where they're also keeping other things beside the data, they can use it with the PPEs as well. We have a full portfolio of products. Today we are talking about IA1000 or ICANN 7000, which is predominantly used for access control, but we have other solutions within hardware and software that allows to have our product fit into border crossing application, national ID application, in transportation, etc. So with that, I will hand it over to Ryan. Thank you very much. We'll be available for any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Mohammed. Securitech, an Assa Abloy company, has been designing and manufacturing the industry's most innovative and high-security commercial door hardware for the last 4 decades in Queens, New York. Today we'll hear from Mark Berger, co-founder and general manager of Securitech. Take it away, Mark.
Thank you, and welcome to Data Center Security Back to Basics. The first data centers actually predate me. They go back to the 1940s. I've been involved in protecting against forced entry for over 40 years. And while we've always been involved in securing server rooms and buildings that are housing computers, they're really much more important today. And we'll discuss the sophisticated levels of protection that are out there. But as I mentioned, we're going to go back to the basics. And as we've seen from the Louvre Museum break-in, it's always a combination of security methods that are needed. So what is a data center? Well, the first data center in the 1940s housed mainframe computers, starting with ENIAC for the US military. And if you're not familiar with ENIAC, I recommend you take a moment and Google it and look up for it. It's pretty fascinating how that all started. The building that housed it had only one door and one window for security purposes. Today, the largest data center in the US is over 668,000 square feet, and it's located in Nevada. And if you think that's big, wait, the largest in the world is, of course, in China at over 10 million square feet. Now, don't get obsessed with size because lots of other buildings are data centers. We see a typical one here at the top of the screen, but a server room in an office is also a data center. A telecommunications building, as you see in the bottom left, is a data center. And even a public utility building like a water processing facility or electrical substation, they're data centers today too. So I like to think of data centers in the macro because even a small building, which is a branch of a data center, gives you an entry into a large data center for security purposes. So let's get to break-ins. How easy is it to break in? Well, the reality is that it's easier than you think. Let's not talk about any tools at the beginning. Let's just talk about ways that people enter data centers. First step is to always look like you belong. So as you see on the left side, people are holding the door open for a group to enter. And if you look like you belong in that group or a sport jacket, dressed properly, you're going to walk in with that group. If you see on the folks that are wearing the vest, if there's a construction project going on, an orange vest and a hard hat work great. If you see there's a smoking break that's going on, well, the person who's handing out cigarettes becomes a trusted colleague. Head in with them and go in. I can tell you stories of all of these ways that data centers have been breached. Similarly, today, technology is out there. For 17 bucks on Amazon, you can get a handheld RFID reader and duplicator. Flipper Zero has gotten a lot of attention. You can buy it for about 200 bucks. They are legal to own in the US. There's no question. There have been a couple of arrests of misdemeanors of kids doing silly things in schools, but in general, no major cases of people being arrested for duplicating with them. And then on the right is a product called Keysi. If you've got, let's say, 2 or 3 different fobs that you have, Keysi lets you read them and put them all on a little fob that you can use as a keychain so that you don't have to carry all these different things. So it's pretty easy to duplicate credentials that are out there. Another way to break in, well, just come through the wall like this fella did. There are ways to penetrate a building that really should be thought about during the construction phase, and it's very important for the data center construction people to think about that as well. Losses from data center break-ins, well, they are pretty severe. And these situations that we're talking here all occurred with burglars' tools. Now, the data center owners generally will keep mum about break-ins. They're not legally required to disclose them. Their tenants may be, if there's a breach that affects the public, but the owners of the buildings generally prefer to keep them quiet. Now, once there's a loss and a major loss or service interruptions or individual user information that gets out there, then they're legally required to disclose it. Now, all of these losses, and I've got 15 or 20 other clips that I could put up there, they're not always caught on camera. And even if they are caught on camera, sometimes in a remote location, you can do a lot of damage and theft before the police arrive. Forced entry protection at Securitech we've designed many types of multi-point locking systems over the years for data centers and computer rooms. The latest trend is for automatic deadbolt multi-point locking, which provides the highest level of security each and every time the door closes. No human intervention is required to lock the door. The door closes and boom, all the deadbolts project. Paramax is a new hybrid project where it's a latch lock by day and a multi-point lock at night. You can have timed release for after hours. It's very impressive and very popular these days. So if you'd like to learn more, we just had a little time over here to get you into it. Please visit securitech.com, pop me an email, and I'll be happy to speak as long as you'd like about this subject. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Silox is the established industry leader in layered access control solutions and offers highly rated intelligent access controllers, the renowned Class crisis lockdown system, and access control software that integrates with wireless and electronic locks from many of the leading manufacturers. Today, we'll hear from Mark Evans, Executive Vice President at Silox. Off to you, Mark.
Hello and welcome. My name is Mark Evans. I'm Executive Vice President at Silox. Today, I'll share our views on best practices to control access to data centers. Let me first give you a quick synopsis of our business. Since 1979, we've designed and developed the first secure RFID card and reader using 13.56 technology and held the patent in its early days. That technology is now the industry standard for all secure smart cards. We also designed the first fully distributed controller back in 1980 that did not rely on the use of facility codes because all the card and user information was stored in the controller as well as the host software. We continue to this day to design our own controllers along with our Windows-based Pinnacle software and our Linux-based Anywhere and Class software solutions. We've been recognized by our top OEM partners for the tight integration and unique features we have implemented with their products, especially our wireless lock integrations. We are solutions focused and take pride in listening to our customers and designing features that address their needs. We sell only through a select network of certified integrators who provide the expertise to solve your problems with layered solutions. We're very proud to say we are truly a US-made company with all our manufacturing in New Jersey. In the world of commercial real estate, only a handful of product types can truly be classified as mission critical, these being healthcare and data center facilities. It's not surprising because of their importance to our daily living. The sheer cost associated with developing these buildings is more expensive than an office or an industrial building. But these data centers have their own cost nuances. They need to be located within close proximity to major fiber optic trunk lines with dual feeds from the power grid and require heavy power, water, and security infrastructure. The classic real estate adage holds it true even for data centers. It's location, location, location. An important factor in the development of data center growth is the not in my backyard factor. The size and scope of water, power, network, and even traffic requirements and the deployment effects are being reviewed in the public domain as the market for PE-backed AI data centers expands across America. For example, even in Pennsylvania, the governor has begun easing approval requirements and creating direct connections between data center owners and sole occupant end users with power generation and grid owner operators. Note that these real or perceived conflicts will ensure that security will play an important role even during the development and early construction phase of these deployment types. Well, what's the best solution to secure these increasing facilities? It goes by several names, such as defense in depth or security layers, where a single or integrated system provide concentric layers of security to breach. Whatever you call them, they're needed to provide security both outside and inside these buildings and grounds. Well, before you start deploying technology, you need to review your policies and procedures. You need to track, report, reevaluate, and manage your redundancy. Some suggested mandatory security layers include monitoring access at the perimeter, at the gate, in the parking lot, having guards on foot and in vehicles, providing vehicle crash barriers and anti-climbing fence, cameras that are both thermal and standard. These safeguards could even be in place and monitored during construction. The second layer would be your lobby. How do you manage people coming in? Do you have a man trap that allows only one entrant at a time? Do you have biometric readers? Then how do you monitor all this? Is it on site with a secure operating center with 24/7 on site, or is it dialed in through network so you can manage proactive and reactive response? Then you have the mass areas of data center floors, obviously high area for only as needed access. What do you do with the equipment as you bring it in and you retire equipment and you bring out new equipment? That's called the retired drive storage. How do you erase those hard drives and what do you crush and destroy them? That needs a very limited access on that material. And then what do you do when people exit the building? Do you have a full metal detection? These data centers, in some ways, are replicating prison security. I've been inside several data centers in Data Center Alley in Northern Virginia, and the layers are deep. How are they constructed? Well, what are the commonalities? So the first thing you need to require is having periodic scheduled hardware maintenance of your security equipment. You can't allow any one of these security layers to have a fail point. Check and monitor the access control rights and augment them if necessary, controlling and monitoring your temperature and humidity because of the impact of all these computers inside the facility. From facility-wide uninterrupted power supplies and device power supplies from electronics, you can even remotely monitor that capacity. And many of the vendors on today's webinar provide a single or even multiple technology that are part of the layered security and can be integrated with Silox solutions. Let's look at some of the best practices that can enhance the layered security for these data centers. Well, we recently moved offices and applied several layers to best protect the integrity of our technology investment, our customer data, our staff, and our intellectual property. Well, you need to establish a high security zone. Now, these are paramount. Fortunately or unfortunately, data centers, the entire facility and grounds are high priority, so you need to plan accordingly. You can utilize biometric devices, which are widely available and integrated with our access control software and hardware to provide a seamless security layer with minimum configuration. And note that post-COVID, many organizations have deployed touchless or frictionless readers like mobile, face, or iris, even using mobile credentials from your phone or smartphone. An often overlooked technology that is cost-effective and reliable is to extend existing access control from traditional doors, gates, and elevators directly to individual server racks. Data centers can prevent physical threats with server locks that prevent rack-level security for data centers and emergency operating centers with real-time monitoring and manage access to even server cabinet doors. These locks are available standard with lock state monitoring and utilizes a mechanical key override. You can even have an optional door position switch monitoring and can be connected to ensure the cabinet's closed, locked, and secure. Like with any wireless access control device, these are designed for seamless integration with new or existing access control and security systems certified from Silox. Well, it's important to secure even the security. Here's ways to do that. Ensure that no one is going to deploy a less secure credential like a proximity 125 kilohertz card. Do not use those. Also, why don't you use the new industry recommendation of wiring and cabling like OSDP standard that can reduce exposure. You can also utilize a simple procedure by adding a PIN code to a presentation of a card for dual authentication. We also recommend photo badging to identify who I am and do I belong here. You can also integrate visitor management and badging systems for employees, contractors, customers, and guests. Remember that as these levels of security become even higher and higher, they come at a higher cost and could even be less convenient. But that's the trade-off you need to make. You need to establish your SLAs, matching your client, your investor, and your organizational goals. In summary, many cost-effective best practices to control access to data centers as you protect that investment and where the risks are high. I look forward to answering your questions during the Q&A.
Thanks, Mark. VIACU is the leader in IoT vulnerability remediation. They implement automated device cyber hygiene at scale to manage firmware, passwords, and certificates, enabling their customers to continuously defend their IoT attack surface at the lowest risk and cost. Today's presenter is John Gallagher, Vice President of VIACU Labs. John, you're up.
Thanks for the great introduction, Ryan. I'm going to dive into today's topic. You know, when it comes to data centers, there's a lot of threats and trends that are happening in real time right now that I think security integrators and operators of these systems really need to be aware of and be prepared to address. So we'll dive into some of that and some of the solutions that VIACU offers. If you're not familiar with VIACU, essentially our product portfolio spans from service assurance, system performance, cyber hygiene. We enable compliance, span of control, cost reduction. The product is that broad, and we've broken it into modules to make it very consumable by pretty much any team. Some customers use it strictly for the service assurance part, knowing when things fail and how to fix them very quickly. And the probably fastest growing part of our portfolio is the cyber hygiene capabilities. And what I'll focus on today, because I think for data centers it's critical, is the ability to rapidly patch devices. In fact, we've now moved into autonomous capabilities for detecting and remediating vulnerabilities. And underlying all of our technologies is the idea that all of these systems are complex. And it's not just about the devices. It's not about the access control system. It's not about the camera device. It's really about the applications, plural, and how they use those devices. And so a camera device might be used by a VMS, it always is, and it might also be used by a license plate recognition system. So seeing how those applications and devices interact gives us context, it gives us the ability to discover things, and it gives us performance metrics that we can track over time. And that enables governance and remediation. And as I'm preaching to the choir here, I think many of the security professionals on this call know that these are complex systems with many variations as the stream goes from point to point. The other thing which a lot of people are concerned about these days is being able to manage their systems remotely. And if you think of the reactive service mode where somebody finds a problem, an integrator rolls a truck, you do a fix-it plan and do the repair, those first three stages are probably about 80% of the time in cost. 20% that remains is doing the repair. VIACU takes that 80% and shrinks it down effectively to zero. That's what our automation delivers to you. And about 74% of the time, we found that those problems that we detect can be resolved remotely. And we give you the ability to track that actually as a metric within our system. So it's really good for reporting either back to your customer or to your internal teams. CPS, cyber physical systems, is a term that I like to use. Many people also would call it IoT, Internet of Things, or OT, operational technology. But by any measure, it's the fastest growing attack surface, right? Number of cyber attacks, this one most particularly, the attacks with physical consequences coming through these devices, or just simply the fact that the majority now of the attack surface is represented by IoT and OT devices. And added on to that in the last several months is that more and more we're seeing AI-driven threats. Both their speed and breadth is driven by AI. In fact, just in September, there was a new record set, 22.2 terabits per second DDoS attack generated from the IoT devices we've just been speaking about. And remember, camera devices in particular represent the largest collection of IoT within any organization. So that attack is the equivalent of more than 1 million 4K video streams simultaneously being streamed. So the volume is incredible. So at Viaku, we've built in a lot of capabilities. I'll just step you quickly through how we would see and detect it. First of all, our system actually does track things like end of warranty, end of life, end of support. But most importantly, we do a call out to the National Vulnerability Database, and that gives us whether or not there's vulnerabilities present in the system and how serious they are. That's what's called the CVE score. We're then able to take that remediation process where somebody has to find firmware, they have to know that there's a problem and so forth. So just like we've done before, we've shrunk, in this case, 99% of the time and cost and risk down to effectively zero. And that's our what we call auto mode technology. It's built on a foundation of more than 2 billion hours of use of our product. It's AI enabled, but there's no AI actually running in your environment. And so the way that auto mode works very quickly is it detects the vulnerabilities, as I showed in the lifecycle management. It checks to see if the manufacturer has new firmware to remediate it. It then sets up jobs, which also checks for compliance. It makes sure that the, for example, camera device, new firmware is compatible with the VMS that's being used. And at that point, humans can interact, they can review these jobs, but everything is set up and could just be simply push the run button and off you go. Manages the firmware process at scale. And at the end, humans can check the job, check all the status, but the system will automatically detect if those vulnerabilities that they found have been remediated and that your system is clean and good to go. So very straightforward. We've taken, again, the traditional manual approach, which is maximum time and maximum risk to an organization, and effectively brought it down to the lowest possible level through the autonomous actions that our system can perform. And that also operates across what at Viaku we've established as the broadest ecosystem of devices, systems, and applications that any vendor supports within our industry. So with that, let me just conclude by saying I hope this quick introduction gives you a sense of how the Viaku Action Platform addresses AI threats, speed, scale, usability. Sign up for a demo. Happy to jump on a call with anyone. Here's my contact information, and feel free to reach out through LinkedIn as well. Again, thanks for the time and attention, and back to you, Ryan.
Fantastic. Thank you, John. So we have some time for some questions. Looks like we've got a couple coming in. Let's see, what do we have here? I'd also like to invite all the presenters to come back on camera, if you would. Extend a big thank you to all of you for doing this with us. I'm sure the attendees appreciate it as well. All right, the first question we have is, let's see here. Okay, this probably applies to all of you. Can these be installed in existing facilities, or do they need to be considered during initial construction? Maybe we'll start with, we'll start with Mark, okay?
So very simply, when it comes to the multi-point locking systems and other products we offer, absolutely everything can be retrofitted onto the door. We also tell people, don't only look at the door and frame, look at the walls surrounding it, make sure you've got a good secured environment.
Fantastic. Maybe Mohammed chime in on this.
Yes, our technology and systems and solutions are designed to be able to retrofit into an existing environment, and we have built the interfaces so they can go in and connect into existing access control solutions like Lenel or Honeywell and Software House.
Fantastic. John, what are you thinking? I see you moving your head.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a easy softball question for us. We're software only, and so the only
Right.
consideration from a design perspective is a lot of our data center customers do want to run entirely on premise. You know, it might sound funny that cloud hosting providers don't want to use cloud services, but from a security standpoint, so we do offer on premise versus through the cloud. So it's really the customer's choice how they choose to deploy.
Okay. Mark, what do you say?
Well, a lot of these data centers that are in the news today being built all around the country are big investments. So I think they've done a lot of due diligence on what they need on the front end. I could see them wanting to scale out their budgeting over time, but with this kind of investment and the security needed, I believe they've got a full plan. I believe that if you want to have security layers and new technology comes along, that'll be able to be implemented down the road. But I think they've done a pretty good job with what they need to have to get the system up and running. As I mentioned earlier, they may need some of this also during the construction phase. Security to be implemented during that time frame.
Right. Stephen, how do the power and data transmission options fit in after construction?
Well, after the construction, I mean, obviously we'd like to get things scoped out prior to, but ultimately, I mean, there are a lot of data centers that, you know, especially in third world countries and places like that, that are taken over, buildings that have been taken over. So, you know, on my end, you know, I look for pathways to the doors, to the areas we're going to secure, but ultimately, I also want to know, you know, distances. I want to know what types of infrastructure is already in place that we may be already able to use. So it really is a broad question, but ultimately, you know, that's what we do. I mean, our job is really to make sure that when the project design is in play, that we're going to make sure that product has the most uptime based on the power needs that it requires.
Okay, thanks. And Ted, I know, you know, you guys can retrofit stuff, but probably ideal that it's thought of initially.
Not really. I mean, due to data center design from your larger data center owners over the last couple of decades, the structure is typically going to be the same. You're going to have your entry points, your data center points, your raised floor, non-raised floor environments. So retrofitting is very easy to do. A lot of just simply the space, right? Do you have the left to right space to fit a device in the middle of that point? But yeah, no, it's very easy in the data center world because they followed some level of standards for the last number of decades.
Okay, and actually, there's another good question that kind of ties into that a little bit. As data centers become more prevalent, I mean, it's crazy how many have been built in the last couple of years even. Compliance mandates are changing, regulations are changing. So how are you guys all working with data centers as these change? Maybe we'll go the opposite direction. Maybe we'll start with Ted.
Yes, from a reference to the changes, we're finding in our space of physical security, the mandate of compliance can be a variable. It can be a physical, being human intervention, right? And your uptime organization that requires speed and accuracy in other areas. So our variable comes into the client's needs, what they're trying to achieve. There's no doubt the introduction to biotechnology has advanced greatly, where before it was the keypad, a prox, maybe hand geometry, had a lot of variables. But yeah, that we found ourselves engaging with more and more clients in that world that want to go there. They do very carefully. The technology cannot be bleeding edge. It has to be very accurate in their worlds because they require compliant. And between alert and alarm in our space is a very defining moment because alarming is different than alert in the data center environment. One of them requires feedback, requires documentation flow to meet compliance, and where an alert base does not. So it is variable, but it's great. Yes, it is growing. As we grow, they grow, and the technology grows.
Excellent, thank you. Stephen, how are you guys working with data centers as compliance and regulations change?
That's a great question as well. I mean, obviously, we have to take and consider obviously UL, whether it's 294 or 1076, but ultimately, you know, we work with them closely in the sense of, you know, backup. When we're talking about redundancy and uptime, with auto transfer switches, for instance, whether it be high voltage auto transfer switches or low voltage, it's on our end. It's all about keeping the product running, and staying within the UL standard. Now, UL is getting a lot tighter, but we're also seeing other areas like, let's say, redundancy with battery backup, in smaller sites. If they're not running on generator, now we're looking at life PO4 batteries, which are becoming more prevalent versus standard SLA, longer backup times with batteries. So, we're working in our end on rapid battery charging systems, auto transfer switches, obviously maintaining UL standards, and keeping up on keeping our ears to the ground as far as what the needs are from not only the specifiers, but then the folks that are installing the projects as well.
Makes sense. Okay. John, now I'm sure there are security compliance mandates, and they're changing. They have to be very quickly. So what can you say about that?
Yeah, so there's three ways that we really work with our data center customers on compliance. The first is, we make sure that the ability to meet the compliance requirements, and especially audits, is baked into our solution. We worked with one of the leading PCI auditing firms to ensure that the output from our system is acceptable to those auditors, right? So they can directly take what our system is reporting and use that to prove compliance on a number of controls. I think it was something like 30 of the controls within the PCI DSS standard. Our system provides output that satisfies. Second way is that we're working with the standards bodies directly, right? I'm on the TIA 942 Edge Data Center Working Group. We a couple of years ago updated the physical security standards around that, and ensuring that edge data centers as well as traditional data centers both have the right kind of compliance controls around them. And then the third way is that at the end of the day, as we talked about earlier, right? The cyber threats and the need to be compliant to corporate InfoSec policies are really driving not just data centers, but any organization to ensure that their already established corporate policies can be implemented through automation. So that's really a cornerstone of how we help people, right? So your password policies, your firmware update policies, certificate management, and so forth, all are baked into our product to make it easy to meet those internal requirements for compliance.
Fantastic. Okay. Mark Evans, since there's two of you on the call. Mark, what's your take?
Mark Evans. Well, thanks, Ryan. Yeah, John just hit the nail on the head. We think that we get a lot of feedback from our larger end users, even in the data space, about compliance with cyber. What are your components made out of? When they last tested? Making sure that we can push updates to the firmware and the software in a secure manner, and it's going through their protocol. I mentioned earlier in my presentation about what are their SLAs, what are their expectations? What are they trying to develop here as the level of security that they're requiring? And are you providing that through your actual components? And what's the update cycle on your hardware and software? So they know that you're not getting to the end of it and you can help plan, and then being really an advisor role to them and knowing all these other vendors out there and how they can integrate those in as additional security layers.
Fantastic. Layered security. All right, Mohammed. What do you say about changing regulations?
Well, changing regulations, for example, depending on different geographies that we work with, a lot of customers are asking for certification on our products to be updated, like SOC 2 compliance, etc. In the other geographies, they're looking for attestation by the users who are using the biometric technologies, basically assuring that there has never been a privacy issue concerning the usage of biometrics. So we work very closely with the customer directed data centers or the implementers to make sure all these things are incorporated into the solutions. And on a regular basis for attestation, we directly work with the customer so we can build a flexibility into those messages So if they need to pop up messages and get the responses so they can be recorded as part of the authentication transactions. So we work pretty closely with our customers on that.
Excellent. Thank you, Mohammed. All right, Mark Berger. Only one Mark Berger. How do you work with customers that have changing regulation requirements? Oh, sorry, you're muted, Mark.
Yep. So there are three areas where we get involved. On the forced entry side, it's not so much regulations as it is what happens after there's been an event somewhere and how everybody reacts to it. So that's an informational phase. The area that we're involved with, because we're physical hardware, would be life safety. So NFPA 80, international building codes, making sure that the humans operating within a data center are both protected, that's the forced entry side, but also able to exit safely in the event of an emergency in a code compliant manner. So we're very on top of that, of offering the highest level of forced entry protection while meeting life safety. The third is meeting specific, and this is more government agency, end user compliance requirements. For example, we've got a product series called the 2C, which is a lock set with 2 cylinders on the outside, where specifically one of the keys is used to remove all electronic communication to the lock set, so that should there be any breaches in software, any electronic situations where someone's broken in, only a mechanical key can be used to enter, and no signal can be used to release the door, and no back doors in software to allow to do it. So it's always, and I think you'll see with all the companies represented here, it's keeping your ear to the needs of the marketplace and making sure that you're responding to your data center and end user needs, both in compliance and staying one step ahead of those who are trying to enter, whether physically or through cyber.
Excellent. Fantastic way to close that out. We are just about out of time. If anyone has anything else to mention, I'll leave the floor open for a minute. But otherwise, I think that's great. All good? Okay. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Thank you to all of our attendees for joining us. If you have not checked out the VSS Tech Talks website, I would love that you take a look and see what's coming up. We'll have the 2026 schedule up shortly. And until then, have a great day, and we will see you soon.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you very much.
Ryan.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.